day, though, there was all kinds of mini showstoppers, even one that held Hank up.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of my jobs for the show was I was to rent a limousine. Hank always comes into the private part of the airport on his own personal jet, and you need to have a limousine there, and you need to have a police escort. I think it was one cop car, or you could have two motorcycle. I can't remember. Anyway, so I called the limousine service.
Part of the illusion.
Well, no, it's part of the contract. But anyway, so I called the limousine company. They were all excited that it was Hank Jr. And so the lady I dealt with was sending out a brand new limo.
Brand new.
And when I say brand new, paper tag in the window. It was a brand new limo. And so the assignment is they're to go to the private part of Will Rogers Airport. They're to pick up Hank and Merle Kilgore, drive them back to the zoo.
Simple.
Easy money.
With the cop escorting. And it was a cop in a police car, so it was just one cop. Simple, right?
Easy money.
What could go wrong? So we're backstage and we're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm telling Jerry Bachman, I'm like, I'm a Hank Jr.
They have cell phones then.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I was a Hank Jr. fan, and I'm like, I talked to Merle Kilgore the other day on the phone, and I'm going to get to meet Hank Jr. And Jerry's looking at me. Jerry's toured across the world with Hank, like every show on the tour before, a couple tours in a row. And he says, listen, I've done hundreds of Hank Jr. shows.
No, you're not.
And no, you're not. I'm like, oh, yeah, I talked to Merle Kilgore, and I did him a favor. And so he said, well, Hoss, if you want to meet Hank Jr., I can make that happen. And I said, and he's a man of his word. He's old school. And Jerry's leaning back on this tree, just shaking his head. He's like, it's not going to happen. I'm like, it's going to happen. He says, it's not going to happen. Well, as more and more time goes by, and Jerry's like, well, where's this limousine?
Where's my star?
Where is Hank Jr.? They should be back by now, shouldn't they? I don't know. Maybe traffic was bad. They have a police escort. What's the problem? I'm like you said, there's no cell phones. And my pager hadn't gone off. So we're sitting there, and now Jerry's poking fun at me. He says, well, as late as they are, you'll never get to meet Hank Jr. now. I'm like, wait, we'll see. And as we're standing there, a police car comes, and it pulls backstage at the zoo, pulls down that gravel road, pulls right up to the edge of the stage and stops. And me and Jerry and Max, I think you were standing there, we're all looking at each other going, what the hell is this? And the cop gets out of the car, opens the door. Merle Kilgore gets out of one side. He walks around and opens the other door. Hank Jr. gets out of the other side. And Hank's bus is parked over there to the side. And they get out of there. They have some stuff in their hands, and they walk in the bus and shut the door. And Jerry Bachman looks at me and says, where's the limo, Jeff? I'm like, I don't know, Jerry. And he said, you did rent a limo, right? I said, I did. So I walk over to the police officer, and I'm like, so what happened to the limo? And he looks at me and goes, burnt to the ground. I said, excuse me? He says, it burnt to the ground. I said, it was on fire?
Brand new.
I said, it was supposed to be a brand new limo. He says, it was. It had a paper tag in the window. I'm like, and it burnt to the ground. Yep. I said, well, I appreciate you giving Hank and Merle a ride to the show. I said, thank you very much. And he's like, no problem. And he says, I'm on duty. He says, I got to go back to work, and off he goes.
But they forgot something.
And so they did. None of us realized it this time. So now Jerry Bachman has heard the story. He's like, you will not be meeting Hank Jr. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to meet Hank Jr. and so I get all the courage up I can. I go over there and I beat on that door of that bus. And Jerry's over there leaning up against a tree with Max looking at me like, you're just dumb, aren't you? And I'm like, this is my one and only chance. And so I knock on the door. Door opens up. It's Merle. He asked me to come on the bus. It was really cool. He had sent me an advanced copy of Hank's album. I'd listened to it, so I had something to talk to him about. But then, since David wasn't there and it was actually his show, I started off telling him about that David had a kid that day, and he was real cool. I mean, I don't know if you've ever met Hank Jr., but he's really a cool guy. And he found some stuff and signed it to Jackson on his birthday, which I thought
that's cool.
That is really cool, and was saying for me to give my regards to David and this and that. It was real cool to talk to him. It was just surreal. It was just so cool. And the weird thing is I had my camera in my pocket all day long, and like right before the cops showed up, I'd put it back in my truck, so I didn't have a camera. But anyway, sometimes you want to pull out a camera because exactly, you don't want to ruin the moment. Yeah. But I sure wish I had it. I wish I had a picture
in your mind.
I wish I had a picture of the look on my face when I came off that bus and Jerry and Max are standing over there against the tree.
You had wood.
I was just ready to get it. I was like,
did you get some autographs, big boy?
So I go over there and I've got this pile of stuff because I got stuff that I'm supposed to give to David and to give to for his son. And so I go over there and I'm kind of gloating to the two of them, and they're sitting there just putting up with my crap, and then that bus door opened from behind, and a totally different Merle Kilgore yelled my name and told me to come over to the bus.
You can hear it too,
and
like your grandpa looking for you.
Yeah, and this was not the Merle Kilgore I talked to on the phone, or I just talked. This is a totally different, all business.
Flip the switch,
and I walked over there. He says, "We got a problem, Hoss." And he said, "And you're going to take care of it." I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "You know those black and white boots that Hank wears on Monday Night Football?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "They're in that cop car." And he says,
"Who's on duty?"
And he looks me dead in the eye. He says, "And let me tell you something else." He says, "Don't tell me that cop's off duty or his watch commander can't get a hold of him or that somehow he's changed cars or what." He says, "I don't want to hear anything other than you've got Hank's boots." He says, do I make myself clear?" I said, "Yes, sir."
You better
Crystal
believe it.
clear. And so
that's a showstopper right there. That is a showstopper.
10,000 people at the zoo on a Friday night would have been more a riot.
So just as much as I would have liked to have had a picture.
That's like spelling Megadeth with 2 A's.
Right. So as much as I would like to have had a picture of how Max and Jerry saw me the first time I came off the bus, I would like to have seen a picture of my face when I turned back around.
He was pretty sad.
You were still red, but you no longer had wood.
Oh well, no. I felt like me and Jerry and Max had a problem.
Yeah, but here's how your showstopper got fixed. We had a guy on our security that was a U.S. Marshal, Keith Graham. And you know what? Sometimes you got to go to the well and make them pull a rabbit out of their hat. This man was able to talk the lingo to get the watch commander to find out where that guy was, who came back very quick
immediately
with those boots, and Hank put them on,
and he delivered them to the door of the bus.
And once
and showstopper was fixed.
Yes, and then it was back to. It was one of those things where. Once he got on the stage, you could go, I mean, those are the kind of thing. And we've had many in our career. We'll get down.
See, that was just one day. I mean, we started out with David having his kid. Then you go to the stuff burning down to the boots coming up missing.
Ride the roller coaster.
You had like 2 showstoppers in one show that you avoided somehow.
Well, no. We had. This is not a one man show by any stretch of the imagination.
Overcome. I mean, at that point, you got to go into hustle mode. You got to figure out what's my options. You know, you're sitting over here freaking out, and here comes the dude.
So did you use the same limo company to take him back to the airport?
Listen, they were so upset. I mean, they were apologizing. I mean, what are the odds?
Right.
And so, and I left part out of the story. So when I was in the bus talking to him, I said, I said, about the limo, I said, I'm sorry about that. And Hank goes, it's a brand new limo. He says, there's a paper tag in the window. I was like, that's what I've been told. And he said, it was really weird. He says, we were driving down the road, and I said, hey, Merle, I smell smoke. and Merle said, well, yeah, Hank, we're in Oklahoma. He says, that's probably an oil refinery. That's nothing. He says, but come to find out, it was the car on fire. I said, well, I'm sorry. I said, I apologize. I said, they said new limo. I thought the base was covered.